Using numbers in your business, particular measures, is a very powerful way to accelerate your business, to help you make money, to make really great decisions. In last week's video broadcast, I introduced the topic of customer lifetime value. Gave an overview of what that metric is, how we calculate it, and some of the initial uses. In this week's video broadcast, I'm going to be revisiting customer lifetime value, looking at a more refined calculation that we can use, which will give us that wonderful power and insight, and then focus on the power of that particular measure and what we need in order to be able to operate, calculate, and utilize customer lifetime value. Hi folks, my name is Mahmood Reza. I am the founder and director of I Hate Numbers and also Numbers Know-How. My mission in my business for the last 28 years has been to help business owners improve their financial awareness, help them win more battles between their ears than they lose, make money, save time. So without further ado, let's carry on with today's video broadcast. Now, last week I introduced the concept of customer lifetime value, which measures the value in profitability terms over the lifetime that a customer has a relationship with your business. If you find making money, if you're finding the idea of a customer, equating that with profitability, then that is a reframe of your mindset that you'll need to execute, because ultimately, whatever your business is, if you do not have an objective, one of your main objectives of making money in your business, and by money, I mean profitability, you will have a very expensive and time-consuming hobby on your hands. Now, in this presentation, I'm going to introduce a few slides just in terms of demonstrating some of the main points I want to go through, and we're going to focus again on the power of customer lifetime value, as well as what we need as a business in order to be able to operate, calculate, implement, and utilize customer lifetime value. If I pick up from where we left off from last week, we had this idea that customer lifetime value represents, based on the number of transactions, the number of interactions that our customer has with us. One useful, really powerful way to actually look at this is to organize your customers into what's called segments or groups. Now, however you capture your information, you need to look at your customers not just as a one big blob, one big homogeneous collection of customers, but you need to segment and group your customers. And segmentation is a process that's used very actively by some marketeers. We're taking into account the shared characteristics of our customers, their shared needs, the common interests, the lifestyles or behavior. We can group those customers. Now, the resources, the service costs, the acquisition costs, the cost of supporting those particular groups, those particular segments of customers are taken off, and that gives us the net customer lifetime value. I just want to introduce you to the concept of segmentation and suggest some thoughts about how you might go about segmenting your customers. You can break it down by demographics, so typically age, gender, income, education, marital status, going down to behavior, value-based. Whatever segment you decide to select for your own business here, make sure you're capable of measuring it, make sure it makes sense to you, make sure it's understandable. Now, if you are in a situation where you've not segmented before, if you're in a situation that you haven't quite started the exercise and it's not sophisticated, for me, any change in terms of how you run your business, how you look at your numbers in your business, how you analyze anything, make a first step. It doesn't matter if you get perfection at the beginning. Perfection comes through refinement, understanding, but you've got to make that first micro step of actually looking at customers not just as a lump, but in terms of breaking them down. And all businesses will have different segments they are serving. Now, having decided what your segments are, let's have a look at some of the power and some of the uses of customer lifetime value. To me, it's a measure, it's a metric that's pretty much underutilized. So communication. If you've got this idea of segmentation existing in your business, your customers are broken down into different groups, different segments, then that influences how you communicate with them. So for your messaging on your website, for the messaging on your email marketing list, whatever messaging you do on any promotional material, that is going to be fashioned and shaped by the segments that you've adopted. Allying that with customer lifetime value, it gives you a focus. You know which customers generate the greater value, but ultimately in the profitability that you generate from those segments that you've identified. For those customer segments that generate high value profitability, those will be the ones that you may be inclined to focus more attention on, allocate more resources. The ones that are proving to be a bit of a challenge, then your focus might be on terms of how you might make improvements there, or perhaps to divest yourself and eliminate what you might consider to be tire kickers, those businesses that aren't really your tribe. When it comes to planning, now I'm a big fan of planning, producing your future financial story. And when I advise clients, when I advise businesses how to put a story together, typically we build the story up by customer segments, by product groups. So therefore, knowing your customer segments and the products they're purchasing is a much more powerful way to prepare forecasts for your business. Improvement is another byproduct of customer lifetime value. And what that means here is one of the elements that will influence the value of your customers to your business is your retention process. It's easier to sell to an existing client base. We know that it's approximately 3 times more expensive to recruit new customers, and we know that all businesses will experience churn, and churn is where customers leave us. But where we can, we want to improve the retention rates, and therefore when we look at customer lifetime value, the variables that will influence the value that is generated is things like our service program, the onboarding process that we have that might influence how long they stay with us. It also will look in terms of the support costs that we allocate, that we have to look after our customers. So making improvements in the efficiency from onboarding from a stranger to a buying customer, look at how we can improve and enhance the customer experience to retain those customers is really going to be very much easier once we have the insight of where to divert our attention. Naturally, decisions will come from this process. We can make decisions, again, how to best allocate resources, the areas that we need to improve, perhaps opportunities for cross-selling, opportunities where we can convert a customer at a certain stage of their relationship with us to perhaps move them on to services and products which are more appropriate to their needs. And ultimately, this leads us to making money. I'd like to move on. What do we need in order to calculate CLV, customer lifetime value, and what we need in order to actually get those insights that we looked at earlier? First of all, there's a KYC, and KYC is the abbreviation for Know Your Customer. It's really important to understand the customer journey. It's really important to understand the journey from an inquirer, from a stranger, to the actual onboarding, to the moment they interact with us in terms of buying things, to the moment they leave us. You need to have the systems in place, and those systems in place means you need to be able to capture the information. You need to have good systems for onboarding you need to have good systems in terms of communicating with your clients. You need to have good systems of reporting. And again, if it's the start of your customer lifetime journey, now data capture, it's all very well outlining the theory and the approach of customer lifetime value, but if you can't capture that information, if you don't have the accounting systems, if you don't have the digital systems that communicate with all your elements in your business, then you're going to be scratching your head figuring out what to do. And lastly, you've got to have ownership of the process. So you've got to believe in it, your team have got to believe in it, and you've got to act to make this actually happen. Now folks, just to summarize here, so in terms of customer lifetime value, a really powerful and important metric. Again, it can be used across the piece. It can be used for a variety of businesses. We need to understand the segmentation of our customers. We need to understand for each segment, what the customer lifetime value is, and that enables us to make much more insightful decisions, understand where our focus should be, understand where our attention should be. We can look at the acquisition costs of acquiring new customers. We can look at the servicing costs that go behind that. We can make improvements. We can improve our communication. We can improve our interactions with our customers. And ultimately, all that leads is to making money for our business. So folks, I hope you got some value from that. If you have, I'd love to hear your comments, your feedback. And in the meantime, folks, I suggest have a look at your own businesses. Think about the segments in your own business and what would they be for yours. Until next week, folks, happy segmenting.